Yo, what's up, everybody? This is Boucher99, and I'm doing a reaction video to Soft White Underbelly's video by Mark Laita. This video is titled Fentanyl Addict Interview, Blake, and I seen this on my recommended, so I watch these videos for educational and informational purposes, and I learn something every time I watch these videos. So I'm looking forward to learning something new, as well as I hope you enjoy it and learn something as well.
All right, Blake.
Yes.
Blake, where'd you grow up? Where are you from originally?
I am from Fresno, California, which is up north a little bit from here, about 4 or 5 hours.
Tell me about your family growing up. You had both your folks?
So I am the oldest of three boys. I'm 29 years old. My middle brother is 26 years old, and my youngest brother is 22 years old. Currently going to college at Santa Clara to become a lawyer. Yeah.
Are you the black sheep of your family?
You know, I would definitely call myself the black sheep, and I would also call myself the scapegoat. You know, growing up, I learned about all those different profile types as we play different roles throughout our family. And the more and more I read about it, you know, my family kind of always used me as an excuse to, I was the troublemaker, you know, and they always use that as an excuse to kind of point the finger at me. But I would definitely say I earned that role, you know. It's nothing that they did, and I definitely, I played that role well. I owned it, you know, after a certain amount of time.
Do you think it was just something you have in your DNA and your personality
No.
naturally, or something happened?
No, there was something specific that happened, you know. When I was 16 years old, I happened to buy weed at school one time. And something happened where the kid I bought weed from, he got caught. And I got called into the office, and my principal asked me, "Did you buy weed at school? Yes or no? Tell me the truth." And I'll never forget this moment, because this moment of my life was a tipping point. He said, "Look, you could either deal with me and I'll help you, or you could deal with the cops." And so, of course, a young kid, you know, I was scared. I got caught buying weed at school. I told him, "Look," to the principal, "I did it. I did buy weed at school, and I'd much rather deal with you than the police." Well, instead of helping me, he actually lied to me. He immediately kicked me out of school as a sophomore in high school. And at the time, getting kicked out of school, my dad had no idea that I had started doing drugs or smoking weed. My dad was devastated. I'll remember the first time when he came into the office that day, he put his head down on the office table and started crying and asked, "Why did you do this?" And what's the reason I'm telling the story like that? Because there's one theme that I always learned from that moment forward, is that you never tell the truth to the authorities.
Something that I think stands out is that his father didn't know that he did drugs up until maybe he was a sophomore, supposedly. And like he said, his father kind of like broke down in the office when they were having the counseling or the conference. I like to call it a conference. And some people deal with that at younger ages. Like if they mess up in school early on, like when they're a child or middle school, elementary school, they start like they see that their parents like kind of have to deal with that at a younger age. And he did it during high school, so it's like he had more affection and just way more history, and it's pretty sad that you know, some people aren't used to that. Some people, they grow up in the school and they're always in trouble, so their parents are at the school like every week, so they can have teacher parent conferences, and it just happens like that sometimes. Some parents are used to it. Some parents don't have any like type of problems with their kids, and if something little happens, it becomes like a really big deal.
That's just kind of something that was taught to me at a young age at that moment. The first time I ever told the truth was the last time I ever told the truth, because when I did it, it immediately got me kicked out of school, and they lied. They said they wanted to help me and they didn't, you know? And so from that moment, moving on, I then went to continuation school, which is a school in Fresno called Gateway. And Gateway is not a normal high school. It's a continuation school for all the kids who get kicked out of high school. And so that I was going to school now, high school, once a week. Only on Wednesdays I would have to go to actually show up in a classroom, and all the other days I was doing work online. This allowed for me to start smoking weed all the time and hanging out with kids who got kicked out of school as well for doing similar things. And so the ball kind of got rolling for me to be that scapegoat, me to be that troublemaker, like I always, like I said, I always owned up to. Yeah.
You graduated eventually?
So from there, I went back to high school my junior year, and something I didn't mention yet, but since a young age, since the age of about 9 years old, I've played baseball very competitively. I was on the best travel ball team in Fresno called the Twin City Twins. That's from the age of 9 to about 12. I was on the River Park All-Star Little League team, which was the first team in Fresno to ever go to the actual Little League World Series that's on television that you watch, We were on television, and we were the first team from Fresno to ever do that. And my high school that I went to, which is a school called Clovis West in Fresno, they're a Division I program, and they have a very good sports program. So I went back my junior year to a baseball team that was one of the best baseball teams in the nation, and I was one of the top third basemen in the nation as well. And so something that always helped me was that even though I got in trouble, I was an athlete. And athletes in high school get taken care of. They get tutors, they get the benefit of the doubt with their teachers. They can take their tests at different times because they have games, and so their teachers will kind of show them more leeway. So the fact that I was a baseball player definitely saved my ass, because I was always getting into trouble, but I was such a good third baseman that my coaches would figure out a way, to get me out of trouble and to make sure that I was there on game day. And so, I went back as a junior, had a great junior year. I had a great senior year, and I eventually ended up getting a college scholarship to go play baseball.
From what it sounds like, he was a great athlete. I mean, from what it sounds like, and I believe it. A lot of people have the same story, and a lot of people go through the same things. They're into sports. It's just that somehow they just always in trouble kind of thing, or they just don't take school serious, and they're a great athlete, And then there's people who kind of get taken care of, like he said, throughout their whole school. Like the teachers know of them as the athlete or the starting athlete, so then they're like able to kind of get away with anything and just have a different schedule than anyone else's. So I see what he's saying, but I mean, he was young and stuff happens, and like you got to be understanding of everyone goes through this, except that at home, sometimes people's at home lives affect their school life. So he probably wasn't getting what he needed at home, and it kind of made him into like drugs and stuff and just getting in trouble at school. But usually, sometimes being an athlete keeps you out of doing those things. It kind of can be a deterrent to keep you away from being always in the streets and stuff.
Baseball in college. So the scholarship I got was to a Christian private school in Fresno. It was to a Christian private school in Fresno called Fresno Pacific. and Fresno Pacific. So I went to a Christian private school, and coming from a high school that was really like all about partying and drugs, going to a college program like that, I felt like I went backwards, you know? I wasn't allowed to have girls in my dorm room. We had a curfew. There was a zero tolerance policy for alcohol and drinking. And so, like I said, I didn't enjoy this college that I had chosen to go to. And so I told you this when I met you. The main theme of my life and my story is that I feel like there's always this piano about to fall since I got kicked out of school as a 16-year-old, because I feel like there's always this piano that's about to fall. So rather than let the piano fall and wait in suspense, I go cut the cord right away, so at least I can say I am in control of it. It's like this illusion of control that I want to have. And so
That's a very good metaphor. The fact that he says there's like a piano waiting to fall, and why don't I just cut the cord so I could say that I'm in control? That right there, I'm telling you, it's like you can't just say something like that and not being honest about it. The fact that he's saying that he knew there was something wrong already. There's something he disliked, and he knew he couldn't stay on this path for 4 years or however long he's going to be in college. So when he was in sports, he got a scholarship, and like that's kind of how he felt. And he's like, it seems like the sports thing. He's a natural athlete. He's a natural athlete, and it's very real. This is real because his story is really good. I like the way he explains it. He's leading up to it. It started off when he was younger, high school, stuff like that. He's not like too much into his like family. He hasn't spoke too much about that, but it's like enough where you could kind of understand. Like he probably didn't have enough like good parenting at home, or he had two other brothers. So maybe being the oldest child in the household, he always felt like a pressure on him to be, kind of the one to do things on his own. But it's just that he can't teach himself to do everything, and you can't raise yourself, and especially when you're surrounded by peer pressure and all this other stuff. So, you know,
told you that I didn't really enjoy the college I had chosen, so I started doing cocaine every single night. And I actually got kicked out of college as a freshman as well for doing cocaine and ecstasy as a baseball player. And so I got kicked out of high school as a freshman, and I got kicked out of my first college as a freshman as well, both because I chose to keep doing drugs instead of and enjoy the life as an athlete. I was very fortunate to get an experience that not a lot of people get in life. First of all, going to college, I was the first. My dad never went to college, so I was the first man in my family to get a college degree. I'm very blessed to have that opportunity. And not only that, I was very blessed to get the experience as an athlete in college as well, which you think it's cool in high school. In college, you're getting free gear, you're getting, newspaper articles written about you. And so for me to fuck that up, excuse my language, am I allowed to cuss? For me to fuck that up because I wanted to keep getting high, something my dad always taught me was you can get high when you're 80, 90 years old, man, do it then. You do all the drugs you want because at that point, you got nothing to lose. But when you're young and you have this body, and you're an athlete, you have this opportunity to see something that not a lot of people get to do. Take advantage of that. Don't take it for granted because one day you're going to look back on it and you're going to regret it. And so I got kicked out of college as a freshman, took a year off, went to a city college for another year and had such a good year as a sophomore at the city college. I got another scholarship to go play baseball now in Monterey. And so Monterey, I don't know if you've ever heard of Santa Cruz.
He's a really good athlete. The fact that he's been able to get into one college already because of his athleticism, and then the fact that he left and like it seems like it kind of was like a slippery slope, and that's kind of like how self-destruction is, you know, like you could be doing okay, and then like you maybe start doing drugs, and then you're okay, you start doing drugs, and it's just like, you know, it's on and off. But it seems like he knows where to go. It's like he knows what's right. So I mean, that's a good thing.
Santa Cruz is one of my favorite places in the world, Santa Cruz, California. Monterey is another city near Santa Cruz. And so I got a scholarship to a Division II there called Cal State Monterey Bay. And
This is sad because I've seen this many times. And before you judge anyone, just remember, like, it could be you at that point. This could be you. Like, he's been on the right path. He's been in positions that no one else has been in. So before you decide to like judge somebody because they're not at their best right now, remember that could be you.
Blake? Blake? Blake?
And thank you, Mark Laita from Softlight Underbelly. Um, you doing these interviews helped me realize you're not alone. And there's many people who you could learn from that even aren't the best. There's some people who are still at the point where they're getting to a position where they're trying to be, like they're still abusing and stuff like that, and they're still on, you know, not at their best. And things get better in time, whether it's slow, sometimes it comes really slow, sometimes it's fast. But as long as you stay on the right track, you should be good, and things will get better slowly but surely.
Blake?
I'm sorry, I literally just freaking...
Cal State Monterey Bay.
Cal State Monterey Bay, yes. Okay, so I got a scholarship to go play baseball now at Cal State Monterey Bay. I had one of the greatest years playing baseball of my whole entire life. I then got a scholarship to a Division II in Santa Cruz, like I was telling you, called Cal State Monterey Bay. And they're known for the aquarium that they have in Monterey. It's one of the nicest aquariums in California. It's a little surfer town, you know, I like to call it a stoner town, you know, a lot of skateboarders, and just, it's a really laid back area. And it just so happens that my parents also have a house in a place called Capitola there, which is like a really bougie, high class little surf town that's, you know, real preppy, and a lot of people of an older age demographic live there, and a wealthier demographic as well. But I went to Cal State Monterey and had two of the greatest years of my life there, just overall. It was 2 years where I actually wasn't deep in my addiction because I left my hometown for once. And so I wasn't able to readily get drugs like I always was when I was in my hometown. I drank a little bit like a college. I drank a little bit like a college student normally does. You know, I smoked weed here and there, but for the most part, I just had a great time living at the beach and experiencing my last 2 years of college. You know, when I look back on it, yeah, it was two of the best years of my life because I wasn't suffering. You know, a lot when I was young, 16, like I told you, I was suffering from addiction. I couldn't stop smoking weed to save my life, even though it meant my baseball career. I couldn't stop popping pills, even though I wanted to, because I just couldn't stop. That's the story of addiction, is that you want to stop. You know, on Skid Row, there's no one here that wants to be here. There's no one here that wants to, barring a few people, you know what I mean, in a few moments. No one is here because they chose to be out here, you know what I mean? It's because that we suffer from a disease, you know?
There are so many beautiful people on Skid Row and on any like homeless blocks. There's people that you look at them and you think to yourself, like, they, like, what are they doing? Like, they look like they belong somewhere else. They look like they belong somewhere else, not just standing there maybe looking for drugs or drugged out. And something I've noticed is, like, you could look into people's faces and then you could just see the beauty in them before they started the drugs. And it just hurts you don't want to approach them or nothing because you don't want to, like, you kind of don't want to hurt them in a way. I don't know how to explain that. Like, it's like they're battling that inside thought, like he's talking about. Like, it's like you want to stop it, you can't stop. Someone else is telling you, like, hey, like, you need to stop. Like, I know what you're doing. It's like they're not gonna want to listen to that. They're gonna look at you like you're the enemy sometimes. And all I'm saying is that, like, it could be hurtful. It's like some people feel like you're trying to expose them and stuff like that, when really sometimes you just want to know their story. And it sucks that it's like you don't want to look at yourself as better than anyone or like you're in a better position or anything like that sometimes. But I feel like it's just the point that it's like you want to learn from them. And you don't want to just look at anyone and just judge them. So it's like, that's not how you learn from somebody, is by judging people. You learn from people by speaking with them and being with them and understanding them, and maybe just spark up a conversation. And you don't just try not to make people feel like they're doing something wrong. You know, it's like you got to understand addiction. And like he said, it's like you want to stop. Nobody wants to be here. It's just hard, and you could be there to help.
And it's a disease where you tell yourself that you don't have a disease. That's the saddest part about it. And so, yeah, those 2 years in Monterey, I didn't feel like I was suffering anymore. You know, I was away from home, and I don't know, I get emotional talking about it because the last 15 years, man, I don't know, I feel like I've lost control of my life. There's been a lot of suffering, you know, and a lot of like loneliness. And when I graduated from college, you know, I went and I started working for my dad as a manager of his company. And I grew up as a welder. You know, my dad has a welding company in Fresno, the biggest manufacturing company in the United States. And so I grew up as a welder. I started welding when I was 13 years old, welded to when I was 26. And then when I was 26, I started managing the company. I managed operations for him, which means that I got the welders what they needed to build the equipment. I would go get the parts, I would organize shipments and everything, whatever. I'd set up everything so they had what they needed to build the equipment. Well, during this time, I met a girl that I fell in love with. I'm 100% Armenian. That's my ethnicity. And so that means that I need to find a girl who's 100% Armenian as well. So that way I can continue the bloodline and our kids are 100% Armenian. And yeah, so I met a girl who was Armenian just like me, and it seemed like a match made in heaven. This girl was way too good for me. Way too good for me. She was a Sunday school teacher. She was a 29-year-old virgin. And she was, if I am the devil, she was an angel. You know what I mean? It was like polar opposites. And for the first time in my life, she made me want to do better. She made me want to stop doing drugs. Because I knew I wanted to marry this girl, I knew that I didn't want to be hiding my drug addiction from her the rest of my life. I didn't want to lie to this girl. If I was going to marry her, I had to be honest and I had to be able to trust her. And so something that changed my life happened. I for the first time in my life, so for 10 to 15 years, I had been hiding my addiction from everyone, from my parents, from my girlfriends, from my coaches, from my family. I always hid it. Even though I got kicked out of school, I was always good at hiding it and keeping my appearance good from the outside. Well, once I started dating this girl, I decided that I'm going to tell my family and I'm going to tell my girlfriend that I have been suffering from addiction. I've been taking pills every day, going to work. I can't go to work without taking pills. I can't wake up even and get out of bed unless I take 20 to 40 pills. And no, all of it. Once I told my family that I had an addiction, at first, they were by my side. They said that they were going to help me out. They sent me to my very first rehab. And I went to rehab. I was sober for 1-2 months, and then I relapsed. And, they supported me again, sent me to my second rehab, where they were still supporting me. And went to my second rehab, and 2-3 rehabs go by and the story of relapse, and all of a sudden my family, they don't have hope anymore. You know what I mean? They went from very hopeful to they start reading about addiction online and the statistics and all the different things about you're an addict for your whole life. Once they start reading these things, they started to lose hope. And when I admitted that I had an addiction, my life changed. My house got sold. I lost my job, I lost my girlfriend, I lost my dog, I lost my car, I lost it all. I lost everything. And since that day, the last 2 years, I've been going to rehab, relapsing, living on the street, and that's what brought me to Skid Row. I was in rehab 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, I was in rehab. I got kicked out of rehab for
There's still a lot of hope for Blake. And the thing about Blake is he feels it inside his heart. Like he knows what's wrong. It's just that addiction he's battling, it's so hard. Like no one could just grab you and just isolate you, right? And even when that happens, you're not all the way rehabilitated. So it's just hard for some people, and he's gonna be better. He's gonna get better. It's gonna happen because this is a stepping stone for him. If he reflects on this right now, he's gonna realize, this is what needs to change, and slowly, stop doing pills or drugs and whatever you need to stop doing. And don't stop it all at once. Maybe you gotta slow it down. So you just need someone to support you. And Blake, just know that we care about you and we're here to support you. You could have the possibility of, you know, getting off the streets, and there is the possibility, and it's very possible. And there's tens of millions of people that are in the same position as you, and they're willing to show you how. And sometimes you just got to talk to somebody.
For hooking up with a girl in rehab, I got kicked out. That rehab was in Orange County. When I got kicked out, I came here. That's how I ended up here in Skid Row, and I've been here for 3 to 4 weeks ever since then. But it came from me going to rehab. To this day, I still want to be clean. I really do.
What is your drug?
My drug of choice is, first of all, marijuana. Like I said, it started with marijuana. Then it's opiates. Started with Norcos, eventually went to heroin. Nowadays it's fentanyl. I smoke heroin at times or fentanyl when I could find it, you know what I mean? But that's expensive as hell. And then crystal meth, Xanax. The only thing I really don't do is drink. I've never been a drinker just because I don't know why. Alcohol to me is just, I just don't do it. But there's really no drug that I don't do.
Are there addicts in your family?
I am the only addict in my family that I know of. I have one uncle who is an alcoholic, and he now is a born-again Christian, doesn't drink at all, but I am the only addict in my family, and that's the toughest part about it. It's weird because that's not true. My family and my culture is full of alcoholics, but it's different. Alcoholics are looked at vastly different than drug addicts. And that's one of the main differences is they look at me like I have this problem, but they drink all day, even at work, even on Sundays, and they.
He has a great point right there. And yes, that is true. I can't disagree with what he's saying because I do agree alcoholics and drug addicts or people that indulge in abuse drugs are looked at kind of completely differently. And that's kind of confusing in a way, but that's how it is. And an alcoholic would judge you right to your face because you're doing like heroin, right? And then they won't even see what their side is. They won't see like, hey, like I'm addicted just like they're addicted. It's just we're addicted to different things. And he said he doesn't do alcohol, so I mean, maybe there's a part to that where he knows more about, the difference between alcoholics and drug addicts.
See that as a problem. It's no different, you know what I mean? But for me to say that is almost like an excuse to them. They don't want to hear it. They don't have a problem. It's me that has the problem. And so, yeah, it's tough to deal with because all the information they have is they have no experience with it. It's all coming from the internet. It's all coming from what other people say. And man, I've tried so hard to help them understand what it's like, but I don't think they can understand.
Where are you staying now?
Right now I'm staying in a tent. I'm staying in a tent on Skid Row with someone I just met a couple weeks ago, and
how are you supporting yourself?
There is no supporting myself. I haven't eaten any food in 7 days, man. I just carried a fridge 10 miles last night that I found on the street to hopefully sell it today to get some money to hopefully, you know what I mean, go get some food and get high. But the truth is that this opportunity right here was one of the best things that I could ever do because, I want to go back to rehab. I still have insurance. That's really good. And so I want to go back to rehab. There's also a bunch of arrests in my story. There's a lot of arrests that I didn't even mention. And, it's not that they're important, but the fact of the matter is that rehab is where I need to be. It's not that I want to. Do I want to be in jail? No. I want to be in a facility getting better. You know what I mean? curing my sickness. A sick person should not be in jail. A sick person should be in a hospital or a facility. You know what I mean? And so,
Are you talking to your family?
no. No, I haven't spoken to my family, and no, I've spoken to them in the last couple months, but not in the last since I've been to Skid Row. You know what I mean? So,
But you still have hope of getting your life together?
absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind that I'm going to do it. You know, I read a quote one time that said, "Success is falling down 7 times but getting up 8." You know, I could fall down 20 times. As long as I get up 21 times, I'm successful. And so, man, you know, being out here, I mean, people say you need to hit your bottom.
Success is falling down 20 times, but getting up 21 times. This is why I enjoy watching Soft White Underbelly's YouTube channel, is because you hear the most interesting things, and it's kind of astonishing. Like I'm astonished by Blake's interview because it's just like, dude, this guy's extremely smart, and I'm like stuttering, and I'm just like lost for words because he's a genius. And yes, of course, an opioid is gonna slow you down. It's gonna happen, and that's what happens. This dude, all he has to do is get clean, and then he could be back a CEO, an owner. He could start a family. His family is gonna forgive him as long as they see him better. And I feel like that's what's gonna make the biggest difference, is the fact that they they want him to get better. And everyone, you could tell by the look in his eyes, like he's spoken to people, and people see so much more in him because he's really realizing all these things. And it takes someone else to finally tell you, like, you're doing great, like you're a good person, or you have this great aspect and you have this great quality, and then you don't see it, but then he sees it. It's like he's starting to see it. So I know Blake is gonna get better, and there's hope for him.
You know what I mean? To overcome this addiction. Fuck, man. There's nothing more I want to do with drugs. I'm over this. This isn't fun anymore. There's no fun being had doing drugs, okay? When I had money, that's when I was doing drugs. That's when I was high all the time. You're not high out here on Skid Row. None of us have money. None of us are able to even purchase the drugs that we want to purchase, let alone food or clothes. Look at my hands, man. I haven't showered in 4 or 5 days. Look at this sweatshirt. You know what I mean? Look at my hair. Look at this beard. Like, I can't even tell who I am when I look in the mirror, you know? If you saw a picture of me, or you saw what I looked like when I was working and when I was doing it, it's fucking scary, dude. But, this is what drugs does to people. And,
What's your biggest fear now?
my biggest fear is that my mom or my dad die while I'm out here, and I don't get a chance to fucking be there for them, or I miss out on something important because I'm a family person, I'm the oldest, like I said, of all my brothers, and you can't trust anyone out here, man. It's fucking terrible, dude. By nature, like I want to help people, you know what I mean? I want to have relationships with people, but every single person I've had a relationship with in the last couple of years has just turned out to fuck me over, man. And that shit's hard to deal with.
Like, what would you say is the most important lesson you've learned in your life?
Most important lesson I've learned in my life is that, I don't know, don't take things for granted, because you're not going to get this time back. You know what I mean? And I hope I can look back on this time I'm still 29. I'm still young. I hope I look back on this time and say, I'm glad I did it when I was young. I'm glad I experienced all that stuff when I did experience it, because I could say I got it over with. Because I'd much rather be doing it now than when I'm 50. I see guys out here who they're done trying. You know what I mean? This is where they're going to end up. And I just want this to be part of my story, part of my trajectory, not where I end up. You know what I mean?
All right, Blake. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I hope you get it all together.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I hope I never see you again.
Thank you.
To support this channel and some of the people seen in these videos, please donate to the Soft White Underbelly GoFundMe campaign. A link is in the video's description by Soft White Underbelly. Thank you, Blake, and thank you, Mark Laita from Soft White Underbelly and all the Soft White Underbelly affiliates. And I'm grateful for this opportunity to say thank you, everyone on YouTube, for helping me reach 310 subscribers. And I appreciate all of you along the journey that I've been on. And it's been a long journey. I've been doing YouTube for, I made my first YouTube video a long time ago, but I started taking it more serious around a year ago when I had the idea to explore and see what I could do and experiment. So I'm still learning. I hope you enjoy, like, comment, and subscribe, please. And you have a good day.